Okay, well, welcome to this
Rick,
first.
hold on just a second.
Okay,
Okay, we're ready. Thank you.
okay. I think we are live now. Welcome to this first of the 11 Days of Global Unity Summit panels on each of the 11 campaigns. My name is Rick Ulfik. I'm founder of We the World and the We campaign at we.net. I'm also co-creator of 11 Days of Global Unity with my dear friend, Troy Lush. And to get more information about this and all of the things that are happening for 11 Days of Global Unity, please go to we.net. That leads everywhere. And I want to thank again, Humanity Rising and Ubiquity University for broadcasting this and broadcasting all of the 11 Days of Global Unity panel sessions for each of the 11 days from September 11th through September 21st. And today, our opening session is on the theme of unity. And to tell us more about that and lead us into what we have to show you today is my dear friend, Sharon Ria, who is the coordinator for the 11 Days of Global Unity campaign, Unity. Welcome to the broadcast, Sharon Ria.
Thank you, Rick. Good morning, afternoon, wherever you are in the world today. Hello, Terry. Today is for many people, and rightly so, a very solemn remembrance of 20 years ago, the attacks on the World Trade Center and other parts of the United States. We want to honor the memory of all who perished, but also all who are affected as family, friends, and fellow citizens from that horrific day. We do remember, and we will always honor that memory. And for the 11 days of global unity, which falls today on September 11th, 2021, it's the 20th anniversary of that event. And for anyone who is so gracious to watch with us today, please interact with us today. Or if you're watching on a replay after today, please do engage with us, because we are aligning with our words for 11 days, which are going from fear to hope. And in that space, we are asking a very different question for today. The question is, can we become unified without a catastrophic event like 9/11? This is a very profound question and leads us into the hope. Now, I have asked many people already, and so many have said absolutely not, because of the way our country is so divided today, that achieving unity just isn't possible. But I want to bring you some hope with this recording that we made of Rick Ulfik, Terry Angel, myself, and our very honored guest, Audrey Kitagawa. We all four of us explored that question. So let me please offer what Audrey's very lovely and profound bio is. Audrey is the president, founder of the International Academy of Multicultural Cooperation. She's the president of Light of Awareness International Spiritual Family, and the former advisor to the Office of the Special Representative of the Secretary General for Children and Armed Conflict at the United Nations. She is also the chair of the Anti-Racism Initiative and co-chair of the Gender Equality Working Group of the G20 Interfaith Forum. She is a United Nations representative for the United Religions Initiative and Ambassador of Religions for Peace International and Chair Emerita of the NGO Committee of Spirituality, Values, and Global Concerns in New York. Are we incredibly honored to have her in a discussion about can we come together and be unified without this catastrophic event like 9/11. Terry, would you please play our pre-recorded?
Thank you so much for joining us for the opening panel of our 11 Days of Global Unity Summit. Today, we will hear from Sharon Ria, Audrey Kitagawa, and Terry Angel Miller on the subject of unity. My name is Rick Ulfik, and I'm the founder of We the World at we.net. And I co-created the concept of 11 Days of Global Unity with my dear friend, Troy Lush. I want to acknowledge Jim Garrison and Rick Buckley from Humanity Rising and Ubiquity University for collaborating with We the World to broadcast this 11 Days of Global Unity Summit. We the World is a global coalition building organization with 11 campaigns for change. You can take action with us by going to we.net. 20 years ago, in 2001, the International Day of Peace was scheduled to be celebrated at the opening session of the UN General Assembly in September, as it had been every year up to that point. Unfortunately, that celebration never happened because of the terrorist attacks of 9/11. The UN permanently put the International Day of Peace on September 21st from 2002 on. At We the World, we commemorated that movement of Peace Day from September 11th to September 21st as the journey from fear to hope. And we call that span of time 11 Days of Global Unity, a time every year when people and organizations worldwide demonstrate that we can come together to solve humanity's greatest challenges. Over the years, 11 campaigns for change have developed out of the 11 Days of Global Unity, and today's discussion will be on the theme of the first of these campaigns, unity. To lead the discussion, I would like to bring in Sharon Ria, who is the coordinator of We the World's campaign for unity. Sharon Ria works as a life and family coach and as an executive communications trainer. She is the founder of the global movement called No Judgment, Just Love and Comfy Couch Conversations. Welcome to the broadcast, Sharon Ria.
Thank you so much, Rick. And welcome to Audrey and Terry as well. I'm so happy to be here as the coordinator of the Unity campaign. And as you will hear as we talk forward, Terry is the coordinator of the Peace campaign. So you have the 11 days at the beginning and the 11 days at the end. And often when we talk about unity, peace is included. So that is another wonderful reason to have Terry here. Now, for 9/11, I can imagine that people were alive. They remember where they were. I remember where I was getting my children from school, and I used to live in New York for 20 years. And it was a horrific day. But what I did notice as we absorbed the horror of the things that were happening and the days going forward, the United States, as well as the world, came together, unified in our pain, in our horror, and supported each other. So this year, on the 20th anniversary, I'm asking a question under the scope of unity, and that is, can we, or how can we, become unified without a catastrophic event? That's our panel question. So my answer is yes, we can. And I believe it begins with each individual person making a choice to see each other through the eyes of allowance and love. So the movement of no judgment, just love is how I choose to become part of the unifying chord for all humanity. And no judgment, just love. Obviously, we judge all the time. That is normal. That is true, and that's how we live as humans. What my movement is asking everyone, and hopefully inspiring you to do, is that once you do that natural thing of making a judgment, take a pause and even a breath in and out and discern, how do I want to speak about myself inside my head? How do I want to treat each other and people that I totally disagree with? I believe when we can do that and shift from judgment to allowance for our words, our action, and people to be who they are, we are at the beginning of unifying without a catastrophic event. I look to a favorite quote I have from Vincent van Gogh that says, "Great things are done by a series of small things." And so when each of us chooses to be willing to shift from judgment to love, we can become united without a catastrophic event. Thank you. Now, I will let Rick introduce Audrey.
So I'm really excited to invite my dear friend Audrey to be part of this conversation. Audrey Kitagawa, JD, is the president and founder of the International Academy for Multicultural Cooperation, president of the Light of Awareness International Spiritual Family, and the former advisor to the Office of the Special Representative of the Secretary General for Children and Armed Conflict at the United Nations. Welcome to the broadcast, Audrey Kitagawa.
Thank you so much, and my deepest appreciation to Rick Alphick, Sharon Rhea, Terry Angel, and all of the organizers of this 11 days of global unity for this invitation to be with all of you today. We're going to be seeking answers and share perspectives about the important question for which Sharon provided the context. Can we become united without a catastrophic event like 9/11? And we are, of course, in remembrance on this 11th day of September of all those who lost their lives in this catastrophe. For while it took place on US soil, it had global repercussions and consequences that followed suit in the policies, laws, and institutions that were created in response to this event. Immediately after 9/11, there seemed to be unity with the expressions of shock and sympathy over this attack, and churches in New York City and elsewhere were packed with mournful congregants seeking solace and saying fervent prayers for the many lives lost and the families and friends of the injured and deceased. In the 20 years since 9/11, so many cascading catastrophes have taken place that has created deep polarizations in the body politic, not only in the US, but around the world. It is as if the underbelly of a large beast had been slit wide open and its entrails released onto the world stage for all to see the degradation of our civic engagement and discourse with foul and polarizing language that encourage anger, aggression, and violence. While the world faced the consequences of climate change and global warming that the scientists had long warned us would be coming if we did not change our habits and our mismanagement of the environment. We are now in the midst of ongoing scenarios of disasters on a global scale that will dwarf the loss of lives and suffering of 9/11. And recently, the UN issued a report from the Intergovernmental Panel on Climate Change that indicated that climate change is widespread, rapid, and intensifying, and some trends are now irreversible. Human-induced climate change is already affecting many weather and climate extremes in every region across the globe. And scientists are also observing changes across the whole of Earth's climate system, in the atmosphere, in the oceans, ice flows, and on land. We have increased fires that are overwhelming the firefighters and creating climate change refugees. And the report warns that many of these changes are unprecedented, and some of the shifts are in motion now, while some, such as continued sea level rise, are already irreversible for centuries and millennia ahead. Apart from the urgent need for climate mitigation, it is essential to pay attention to climate adaptation. And this is according to World Meteorological Organization's chief, Bettera Talas, who said, the negative trend in climate will continue for decades, and in some cases for thousands of years. The message of the climate report is crystal clear. We have to raise the ambition level of mitigation. And at the beginning of 2019, another virus, COVID-19, unleashed a global catastrophe that caused the death of over 4,500,000 people around the world and still climbing. And the rise of viruses within the few short 20 years has seen an increase in contagions from SARS to Zika, avian flu, Ebola, swine flu, and now COVID-19 with its many variants arising quickly and spreading through populations around the world. These animal to human pathogenic transfers has a correlation not only to our mismanagement of the environment and its destruction, but particularly related to the loss of our vital rainforests. So there is also a global call for us to unite in facing our seemingly non-stop catastrophes that appear to be manifesting with increasing rapidity and greater devastation. And the scale of their impact is also creating large numbers of people who are becoming climate change refugees or are left homeless within their own countries. From raging fires to floods, drought, earthquakes, hurricanes, and growing threats of pandemics, the proportion and ongoing and relentless disasters are having global impact. States are becoming taxed in their resources and ability to sustain responses to provide ongoing help, and are experiencing lapses and failures in being able to provide sufficient assistance and timely responses. And our healthcare system became overwhelmed by the COVID-19 virus. It shut down the global economy, schools, transportation systems, and isolated people. The outcome of this has spawned, however, a stark awareness of the disparity in the treatment and access of citizens to vital healthcare and other essential services. And food banks became taxed as people lost their jobs and could no longer afford to buy food as before. But global civil society movements have become expressions of the power of uniting positively to create solutions and address problems caused by catastrophes. There has been an explosion of NGOs who are obtaining UN-affiliated status, charitable not-for-profit organizations, disaster relief agencies and organizations, advocacy groups and activists who are mobilizing to arrest climate change and the unmitigated exploitation of the earth and its resources. Churches and faith communities have expanded their work of helping their congregants and non-congregants alike because of the growing need. Everywhere, people are being called to step up and to help others. The citizenry has grown in greater awareness that our higher calling to serve and live life with higher purpose is taking place. And in his article, Disaster Collectivism, How Communities Rise Together to Respond to Crisis, Robert Raymond writes about a woman named Judith Rodriguez, who lived through Hurricane Maria in Puerto Rico that plunged the country in darkness for months with the loss of electricity. She said, "We are a community. We have to help each other here in Puerto Rico, which I call the boat. If the boat sinks, we all sink. I don't sink alone. We all sink." And he goes on to write about a powerful story taking place, one based on altruism, solidarity, and social responsibility. And when we look closely, we can see it happening all around us. This is a story of disaster collectivism. And he goes on to write, this kind of human kindness, often hemmed in by the myth of Homo economicus, perpetuated by mainstream institutions, is bursting at the seams, just awaiting for a chance to emerge. Could it be that the collapse of normality that arises during and after calamity awakens something deep within us? Perhaps these moments open up a space, however briefly, for new forms of civic engagement and public life. And there is a deep need to connect. According to research published in the Journal of American Sociological Review, 25% of Americans report not having close friends or confidants. We are also seeing the number of individuals living alone rise sharply in recent years. As we become more and more isolated and atomized in everyday life, our craving for connection only increases. One of the authors of the review said, "Our species is a group species. There's something deep and quite innate in us as a species to stick together. And once the door to another world is open, it is often difficult to close it. And there are many instances of how the bonds and collective vision that are formed during the immediate aftermath of disasters have grown into broader projects that reach far beyond immediate disaster relief." And he cited some examples that we have seen that goes beyond relief focus of providing meals to related services of art, education, and therapy, as needs are recognized that go beyond the immediacy of the disaster, but seeks rather to build towards a new world, one that is more just and equal, and broadly seeks to address the needs of the community. And he concludes his article with these powerful words. With an uncertain future ahead marked by deepening divisions and climate change, the many examples of collective relief and recovery efforts can serve as a blueprint for how to move forward and rebuild with a radical resilience. They can also provide a glimpse of another world, one marked by empowered communities filled with more connection, purpose, and meaning. We are in the midst of creating this other world, filled with compassion, caring, kindness, and love, the ingredients that are essential for our survival, because we will then be living life with deeper meaning and purpose. And in this manner, we are actively mitigating against catastrophes. And in that sense, catastrophes help us to remember what it means to be more fully human when we live our lives with selfless service and higher purpose that goes beyond the singularity of I to we, so we may truly embrace we, the world. Thank you so much.
That was wonderful. Yes, it's all about we, isn't it, Audrey?
Yes, it is.
Audrey, that was outstanding. Thank you so much for giving life and breath to a simple question with contrast and clarity and some degrees of urgency, and moving us to the hope from the fear that we can create this world united for we. Thank you so much. I really appreciate your offering. So Rick, I think next I am introducing my sweet dear friend, Terry Angel. Hi, Terry.
Hi, Sharon.
Terry is a happiness coach, energy healer, best-selling author, spiritual teacher and mentor, and a motivational speaker. Terry is the peace campaign coordinator for We the World and the founder of a nonprofit organization, Angel Speakers, which offers educational workshops and events centered around environmental awareness that we just heard so eloquently about from Audrey, to include animals and nature, peace advocacy opportunities, and ancient wisdom teachings. Terry has a movement, Peas for Peace, involves strengthening our awareness of the oneness of us all, unifying mankind through compassion, peace. She was named She Who Blesses the Sacred Land during the Peace on Earth tour and embraces the title with loving grace. Welcome, Terry.
Thank you so much, Sharon, and thank you to this beautiful panel. Audrey, I loved your words. They really touched my heart. And that's how movements get started. When we're touched by the words, it may be something that we've heard before, but hearing it when the condition is right, when the divine timing is present for us to live out our plan that we're here for on this earth. And so your words today really touched me. I want to read something that also touched me from Mahatma Gandhi. You must not lose faith in humanity. Humanity is an ocean. If a few drops of the ocean are dirty, the ocean does not become dirty. The future depends on what you do today. Without action, you aren't going anywhere. So what I do is a call to action everywhere I go. I started out, this is very touching for me that we are doing this on September the 11th. I started the Peace on Earth tour last year, 2020, on September the 11th. So I'm celebrating 1 year traveling across the country of the United States. I've gone coast to coast from Florida to California. I've gone north and south, and now I'm back in the East Coast. I'm in Massachusetts, actually, right now. I have stood on many places where there were tragedies, there were disasters. In Missouri, I joined Dr. Marty Casey and stood on the very spot where Michael Brown died. I've stood in front of the Statue of Liberty and cried tears just at the thought of what it represents, freedom for us all. And freedom and love and gratitude, it's all so intertwined. But we have to have that message inside of us coming out. That's the call to action. And when I heard the call to go out on this journey, on the Peace on Earth tour, I had no idea what it looked like. But as I've gone across the country and talked to people, they've answered this question, Sharon, that you have brought up for us to talk about. Everyone that I talk to, I discuss peace. What does peace look like to you? And is it possible in our world? And as I traveled over this last year, we came up with a mantra. And that mantra is, there is peace on earth. And that peace begins inside of us. It has to begin inside of each person. And that's how we are going to bring the world back together, is each person bringing that peace through their hearts and sharing it and collaborating. I'm not doing this journey alone. It's called our journey of healing, because as I go along the way, each person brings a different energy to it. And I've found different organizations that are geared toward peace, harmony, and want to collaborate to bring this forward. And those moments that we have, the disasters, the whole world feels that compassion. This was brought forth from the HeartMath Institute in California. They measure the frequency that's going out. The collective energy frequency on Earth is measured at every moment, every second. And I've seen the graph of what happened on 911 and directly afterwards. And it was off the charts with compassion, with love. If we can just find that in our hearts every day, that's the call to action. That's what's going to bring this to a world where we feel that and act toward each other with that kind of energy of just letting each person peace camp together to discuss how can we, each person individually and collectively, bring more peace into the world. I'm looking forward to that discussion, and I'm looking forward to the campaign coordinators joining in together to have a discussion next week about our campaigns. So thank you for letting me be here today on this panel. Sharon, I love you so much. Audrey, I'm just in awe at your words. And Rick, you know my heart. I love you, dear.
Yes, and I'm looking forward to seeing you soon also in New York, because you're not usually in New York.
That's correct. And I will be back. I know we didn't get to connect live this time, but I have ordered a peace poll that will be put in New York, and I'm hoping that you will be present for that, Rick.
Okay. Sounds good. So Sharon, where do we go from here?
Well, I think that if everyone is willing, we'll just take a few minutes to comment on anything we've heard, offer any kind of question that you may have for our audience. And then Rick, if you would close us out, we'll take our last so longs after you give us a little closing. But right now, let's have a few minutes of conversation. Rick, Audrey, Terry, and I, we've all spoken a little differently about this question, thing that's bubbling up.
For me, it's all about we, as I was saying before, and we all were talking about. And I think the celebration and inspiration of people coming together to transform their societies and solve our problems, for me, that is a strong enough reason for people to come together. It doesn't need a crisis, because I think people have an innate need for community. And also an innate need to make a contribution. I think this is part of what makes us human. And in cultures where there's a strong push for individualism and, going it alone and all of that, that's useful in certain ways, but it also can detract from fulfilling that innate need that we do have to make sure that the whole survives. The whole idea of we and we consciousness is where the health and well-being of all members of our society and world are considered essential. In other words, each member of society is considered essential for the survival and well-being of the whole. And that, I believe, is part of what makes us human. So for me, that's reason enough for us to come together and solve our problems. So we don't necessarily need to have a crisis. And of course, there are so many crises happening now, I don't think we can avoid that. I think it's almost a mobilization as three crises that are defining our lives, especially here in the United States. So we have plenty of reasons to come together, and coming together can fulfill our needs at any point. That's what I believe.
Thank you, Rick. Thank you. Thank you. Audrey, do you have any other thoughts?
Well, thank you so much. I was so pleased to hear how each person on this panel is really practicing activism in their lives in their own way. And I was especially happy to hear Terry mention the work of the Heart Math Institute, which is one of their essential findings is that the heart is the largest electromagnetic center in the body. And it is the power of the heart to entrain the mind and to bring us into coherence with ourselves. And that is through the essence of the heart to love. And in creation, we're constantly facing the pairs of opposites, the good, the bad, the happy, the sad, peace, and the absence of peace, birth and death. And in between the time of birth and death, we have to come together with all the different patterns of engagement with families, co-workers, and a myriad of circumstances that constantly challenges us in large and small ways. And in the march of human history, we have seen the explosion of the growth of the human species with over 7.5 billion people living on one planetary home called the Earth. And in a few short years, it is projected that there will be upwards of 11.5 billion people. And this means that complexities will necessarily increase, and we may be in an increasing state of a stream of catastrophes, and all of that compels us to reach way down deep within ourselves, to discover ever increasing new and creative ways to move from competition to cooperation, from territoriality to sharing, from destruction to preservation, and all forms of self-absorption and preoccupation to selfless service. And we all know that our ability to change and live those principles and values that speak to honoring life as sacred and engage with each other in respectful, kind, and loving ways will help make us all better people and this world a better place. And because the very life we have is sacred and the essence of love itself, we cannot but help to live who we truly are if we are to find happiness and peace within ourselves. And our challenge is to be able to manifest that essence of who we are every day that we live, through every loving thought, word, and action. And from the flourishing which I have seen, I know I am in good company of selfless persons who are willing to step up and to live their lives with higher purpose. So thank you so much.
Thank you, Audrey. So beautiful. And what has inspired me again are the things that you and Terry remind us that there is good in the world. There are enormous amounts of people coming together in community to lift each other up. And I believe we get distracted by our pain. We get distracted by the media. We get distracted by people not seeing beyond today. I think that guiding principle of going from fear to hope is expanded when we can see what's happening now, but believe something better is coming and that we are a part of that. I'm often reminded of the African phrase Ubuntu, which is I am because you are, and that's how I see it. I exist not in a vacuum. I exist because everyone else is here, and I am in interaction, collaboration with kindness and compassion and unconditional allowance. For me, everyone deserves to be unconditionally allowed to become who they're meant to be. We're all changing every day. And when we can do that, and allow us all, then we don't get confused by the word unity and united. It doesn't mean uniform. And I think that's what trips some of us up, is that when we hear unity, we think I have to be the same as everyone else. Well, in fact, we are. We are all human, and that is our sameness. And from there, we get to be individuals, but hopefully hold compassion in, as you rightly said, in my opinion, Terry and Audrey, in our hearts. We have become afraid of our hearts, and our hearts guide us. They inform our thoughts. They inform our actions, our hearts. And we need to learn, I'm hoping, to become precious with it and listen. So yes, many people I've spoken this question to, can we become united, have answered no, to my dismay, because they're focused on the now and the challenges through their pain and not seeing the world through their joy and allowance. So I say, yes, we can. Terry?
Oh, thank you, Sharon. And what you just said was so beautiful and so pertinent. What we focus on expands. That's a fact. That's not any dream that somebody came up with. What we focus on, what we look at, expands. So if we're looking at the world as a prison, as something that's holding us down and creating all this chaotic energy, we're going to continue to see that. It's going to expand in our minds. It's going to expand in the way we act in the world. But if we choose to have this world as a playground, that's what it will be for us. We can laugh. We can be that child again with that childlike awe. And that's when the miracles happen. It's overquoted, but I just want to use it here. Be the change you want to see in the world. And if you're seeing that world as dark and dreary and drudgery and bad things are happening and bad things happen to good people, I hear this all the time. But if you want that to change, the only way it's going to change is inside of you. I have a beautiful friend who I met on this journey. Her name is Marietta. And she uses 3 words. And she says you can take the AAA with you wherever you go. The first is to accept that everyone is here doing the best we can, working on our own path, letting our message come out of us. The second A is align with who you truly are. Be you. So you accept others, you be your beautiful self and get in alignment with that soul that you are. And then allow. Just allow. When we're not resisting, when we go into that energy of allowance, it opens doors that would have stayed shut if we had kept resisting. So accept, align, allow. And thank you to Marietta, who taught that to me, and I teach it everywhere I go, and I say it every day. And I do the heart brain coherence every day, Audrey. I just love that. It's a way for us to really connect in and just let our heart and our brain talk to each other and bring forth love in our world. And Sharon, the answer to the question is yes, for me as well. I vote yes, we can. And it's going to start with each one of us. Just bringing that energy from us. That's what it takes. And that's where it will begin, inside.
Thank you, Terry. Thank you so much, Audrey. Thank you, Rick. We are complete. And Rick, if you have a closing phrase to end the video, we welcome it now.
Sure. And I also wanted to say that I think we accomplished our goal at We the World, where we inspire, inform, and involve. That's 3 I's that make a we. So we can go from a me society to a we society. There you go. Because I think we could use a we society.
We have it. We just have to focus on it and expand it, in my view.
Exactly.
Thank you, Rick.
and also, I just want to I want to thank everyone for joining us for this opening panel of our 11 Days of Global Unity Summit. And I want to encourage everyone to get involved, watch these broadcasts or the recordings. You can go to we.net. You can find everything there. You can also go to 11daysofglobalunity.org. But probably the easiest web address to remember is we.net. And so thank you all. This has been just a terrific panel, and we see you very soon. Bye-bye.
Thank you, Terry, for showing our video. Hi, everyone. We are still here, and we are still very much engaged, and would love to continue this conversation for just a bit with our panelists, Rick, Terry, and I. That was a beautiful recording that, because Audrey couldn't be with us live, we wanted to make sure her voice was heard. So Terry, if you can get back, there you are. And just want to let everyone know that we'll probably take about 10 minutes or so. We might go a little bit over 1 o'clock because we had some technical difficulties in the beginning. And we do have a wonderful We Members song that we're going to play at the very end of our broadcast today before we close out. That is Love's Gonna Win. And we invite you to listen to that audio, have your own images in your mind as we close out then. But before that, any new thoughts, Rick or Terry?
Well, I wondered if you, Sharon, can talk about some of the things that you mentioned during that that interview with Audrey. You mentioned that you had connected with people who had given you a very different perspective from the folks that we hang out with, you know, in our peace community bubble, you might say.
Yes.
So I would be interested to hear what some of those folks said, because it is important to get the full range of how people are thinking about this and thinking about the prospects for having peace on Earth and peace with Earth, as I like to say, having to do with the connection to the environment. So
Yes.
go ahead. Tell us some of those actual comments that you have received so far.
Okay, and I did write them down, and with everyone's permission, I'm going to read fast so that I get the breadth of the people that had something to say. My friend first says, I think the true answer to this question is that we have to become united because it feels like the next catastrophe will be so major as to take us off the earth altogether. Unfortunately, our country is so divided with racism and hatred running so rampant, I'm not quite sure we can ever come together with or without a terrorist attack. This idea that we must come together or only come together when we have a common foe, outside threat, or catastrophe seems deeply embedded in our social psyche. United against seems to be the norm. United against war is not the same as united for peace. And as long as there is racism and greed in this country, uniting toward a common good will be very difficult to obtain. 9/11 did not discriminate as death encompassed everyone, but we still do, extremely harshly, making it near impossible to become united. But, oh, what an America that would be if we could. And with your permission, I'm going to read really fast because one of my friends was a principal in a school. I used to live in New York, and he was in Maryland, and he was in his school on 9/11. And he writes this: I was a principal of a middle school in Maryland on 9/11, 2001. One of my teachers came running frantically to my office saying, one of the Twin Towers was hit by an airplane. After hearing of the second plane, I remember saying aloud, coordinated strike. As a principal, I immediately made sure my administrative team convened and went into our emergency mode to ensure the safety of our children and staff. At the time, our emergency plans were constructed to address fire alarms, bomb threats, and power outages. No one had any contingency plan like those that were needed for 9/11. Our plans did not include emergency evacuation to a local and larger high school. And because I was near where the planes hit near the Pentagon, Andrews Air Force Base was not an option. That there was the possibility that we could go to the Federal Census Bureau less than 1 mile away, but rumors had swirled that the Census Bureau was also going to be attacked. Therefore, we had to shelter in place. The aftermath of 9/11 had me sending commendation letters to the personnel files of my teachers and administrative staff because I had never, nor have I ever, personally seen a group of people, different races, political persuasions, ethnicities, and religions come together so quickly under duress and unite for a common cause, the safety of our children, our neighbors, our community, and dare say, our strangers. I'm not a person who is without hope. Sadly, I do not see signs that such changes will happen voluntarily. It appears it will most likely only occur with the aid of a catastrophe, a catalyst, and that being a catastrophe similar to biblical ones where we see that if we are not truly united, selfless, fair, caring, giving, and genuinely loving one another, desired changes may not occur.
Thank you for that. And it looks like we have someone watching live now on Facebook who named Jean, who says, not only can we unite without a horrible event, we must. It is the divine plan, and without us accepting that we are one, we will not survive. So I'm wondering if anybody has any comments, any thoughts, Sharon, Terry?
Terry, do you have a thought? I'm happy to go, but I'd love to hear you.
Well, I want to go back to what Audrey said about this. If that boat sinks, I'm not the only one going down. And I may be a dreamer, but I believe in hope. I believe that we can come together, and yes, we can recognize who we are through introspection and becoming empowered. And how do we become empowered? We know who we are, and we know why we're here, and we know that we're all one. When we get into that unity, Sharon, we know that we're all one, and what affects me affects you. It affects all of us. So yeah, I agree with Jean totally. And I agree that we all have to really work to become more empowered so that we can help each other into the lifeboat, or keep that boat afloat is the real goal, right?
Exactly. Rick, did you have a thought?
Oh, yeah. Many thoughts really, but I was really thinking, I mean, one big thing is that we are in the middle of some major crises right now. So this idea of, needing a crisis to come together, we can't really avoid that at this moment. We have COVID, we have the climate crisis, and these are kind of, both of those are kind of existential threats that affect people on an individual and a collective basis. So I think it's really about making that shift in our culture. That shift, as I talk about, and a lot of us in the We campaign and We the World, we talk about making that shift towards we and we consciousness. Because, if it isn't part of our culture to care about the common good and to really identify our individual actions with what happens to the collective, if we don't make that cultural shift, then we're not going to be able to solve these problems now. I think about COVID as being this lesson that we learned that if a single person in our community has COVID, then we have a danger to the whole community. The survival of the community is at stake. If a single person has that disease. But what about if a person is homeless? A single person in the community is homeless, or a single person is discriminated against, or, you know, a long list of other things. The kind of culture I'm talking about is one where people would jump to the occasion and realize that a single person who's homeless is a danger. I mean, their being homeless represents a danger to the whole community. So anyway, so that's why, you know, making that shift in consciousness is so important for me. That's one thing.
So thank you. I want to give some tangible ways, because often the concept and the conversation around some of these things might seem lofty to people. Unity out there. I'm living my daily life and all of these things are happening in and around me that prohibit me or don't give me an open door to think about uniting with everyone else when I'm having such a difficulty in my own life. And so I would love to read just a little bit of a quote from the person C. Joy Bell C. Because often, as I said in the pre-recording, I hear people saying, well, I don't want to be united with people I don't agree with. I don't want to be united with people I'm afraid of. I don't want to have unity with that. And I don't want to be considered bland or the same as everyone. And I think we get confused or misunderstand what the meaning could be for unity, which is not, we have to be uniform in ourselves. We can be united in our individuality. And so she says, we are equal in the fact that we are all different. We are all the same in the fact that we will never all be the same. We are united by the reality that all colors and all cultures are distinct and individual and deserve to be honored in that way, not diluted. We are harmonious in the reality that we are all we are all held to this earth by the same gravity. We don't share blood, but we share the air that keeps us alive. And so in that space, I invite us to start where you have 100% control, and that is with you, to become united within yourself. And that's the message of no judgment, just love, of which I'm the founder, so that you judge yourself less. You are your only cheerleader, so cheerlead yourself to the fullest. Really think about where you are disconnected in your own spirit, in your own soul. Come to peace with that if you can, but at least acknowledge it so that when you look out in the world, you now hopefully have a bigger opportunity to become curious about everyone else instead of fearful about the people you don't understand. And when you become curious, you might be able to take this suggestion, of which I offer as we close. For the people in your world that you move around in your local community, one small act is the same vibrational energy as a very large act that someone famous you know does. So you can make a difference in the world. And I invite you, if you're willing and you feel it's safe, just say hello to someone you have not said hello to before. Hold the door open for someone as they're walking into the store. Give someone a genuine smile. Doesn't matter whether they respond. You just send that energy out. And those seemingly small, but in my opinion, large acts will get us unified. Thank you, everyone. Thank you so much for spending some of your time with us here at We the World. We are very happy that you're here. We're going to end with one of our members' song, Lanny Smith. He wrote a song called Love's Gonna Win. But before we do that, Rick, do you want to close us out with any we statements?
Sure. I think we accomplished what our overall goal is with all of our events, to inspire, inform, and involve people, you who are watching this, in this work that we are doing to create a world that works for all. And those three I's, inspire, inform, and involve, make a we. So we can go from a me society to a we society. And certainly get involved with us by going to we.net, where all things are possible. Thank you, Sharon. Thank you, Terry, so much. Thank you, Audrey, for being part of this on the pre-recording. And thank you also to the Ubiquity University and Humanity Rising for doing all of these broadcasts and for all of the scholarships that they are awarding people as part of 11 Days of Global Unity in honor of Avon Madison. So thank you.
Thank you, Rick. Terry, are you able to cue up Lanny's song? Wonderful. Thank you, everyone. Enjoy the rest of your Saturday. We will close out with this song.
It was a time of struggle and pain within us, and the tears we cried changed us in many ways. Yet in those moments of deepest darkness, there was a light shining in the faith that everything's gonna be alright. Love's gonna win. Love's gonna win. No matter how hard, keep holding on and believe. When hope is alive, we're gonna be strong. Though mountains may fall, just know through it all, love's gonna win. Love's gonna win. Though mountains may fall, just know through it all, love's gonna win. Love's gonna win. Love's gonna win. Love's gonna win.
Thank you, Lanny. Thank you, everyone. Bye-bye now.
Bye-bye.